is up? Welcome to episode 5 or maybe 4 of Fight Factor. I am your co-host, Lou Betya, joined as I am each and every week by my guy, the Dogfather. I will apologize in advance. I have had a raging headache since the happy hour on Thursday night. I don't know what is wrong, so I apologize for my lack of comedic stylings on the show. I will leave it up to my co-patriot over here, the Dogfather. Brother, we did all right on Saturday, huh?
Not bad. Not bad. Shout out to Dan Hooker, obviously. Yeah. Shout out to Steve Ursig, for getting bonked. That sucked. I had a bet on him. I had a bet on him in like $1 of CLV or over $1 of CLV. But, that's MMA. I thought he looked good. It happens. Some other good bets to go along the way, too. I think our read on the Tuivasa fight was cash money. That was one of our best reads we had last week. Kudos to us.
Never even came close to a finish. Like, never.
Yeah, there were like some sketchy spots, but that's about it. So, yeah, we had some good reads last week, and I felt like we stayed away largely from the favorites that lost. So, in terms of just like a betting perspective, except for, your boo, the TikTok queen, Luana Santos. Not the.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm gonna have a bad read, it may as well be she got dominated. I mean, that wasn't even close, and I'm worried because Pepe and I once again seem to be on the opposite side of a female fight. Spoiler alert: it's not the first one. It's not the first fight of the night. The only thing I'm upset about is I said all week, DDP sub. Like DDP sub, the price is crazy. The path is there. Said it on this show. Said it on the prop show. Said it on the happy hour. And then I get in the spaces with you guys Saturday, and like all I can talk about is, am I a fool to pass up Izzy at this price, being that he's one of the greatest to ever do it? So I ended up just laying off the fight. And dude, even after 3 rounds, man, Duplessis was plus 450 live in a fight that was, I just felt like I couldn't pull the trigger on it. And then so look, I didn't lose any money, but I didn't win for a read I thought that was good all week. And I got to do better when it comes to having a good read, not making money off it. You don't get a trophy for that. So.
Now, I agree with that, but it just means that your process is good, though, which is not the worst thing. At least just means that you have to start pulling the trigger on some of that stuff. So,
I mean, you got to understand. So, soccer's now in full swing, and any weekend in soccer, there's going to be like 30 to 40 games in all the major leagues that I can cap. I'm never betting 30 to 40 games, but I can cherry pick. College football, 80 to 90 games in a weekend. So again, I can I don't know if it's 80 or 90, but it's a lot. But then I can cherry pick. I find my best ones. With the fights, look, there's only 10 fights on this card, and I'm not betting 10. But when you have less betting opportunities on a card, I feel like I got to take better advantage of the spots that I do feel stronger about, not be such a bitch about it. But
yeah, that's where we differ. Is I only bet MMA. It's what I do. I'm specialized in it, so. That's where our game's a little bit different. I'm always taping something after, the show today. I gotta go. I'm going to go look at Contender Series probably again tonight and tomorrow and LFA this week. So yeah, a lot of shit going on.
Yeah. As of right now, I have 16 soccer games that I like and maybe 3 fight bets that I like. So I like a lot of games this weekend. What can I tell you? Last week I liked 7. This weekend I like 16. It's just the way it is, man. If I like the number, hey, it's early season. I'm taking advantage of what I think are bad numbers. Like West Ham plus 200 is a bad number. I'll take my chances with it. I already have bet it. But anyway, that's for a different show. Let's get to this card, which, maybe not the best offering they've given us in a while, but there are a couple of cool fights. And this is heading into our break week. We get a week off, so these 2 shiny, sexy faces will not be here next week for fights. We'll be back in 2 weeks. You'll be on doing Contender Series. I will be not on YouTube, unless Monk wants to do something weird. Then I'll do something with Monk. But first fight of the night, and we're starting off with another absurd line. This has been steamed. I think some people, did she open at like minus 180 or something insane. Kong Wang almost minus 1,000 against poor Victoria Leonardo. Over under, juice to the over, but it's 1.5. Let's start us off. How are you playing this if you're going to play it? Do you bet ITD? We don't have any numbers out yet for in the distance. Do you bet decision, or do you just say, you know what? It starts at 7:30 Eastern. I'm ignoring that this is the start of the card.
Yeah, I don't really care about this fight. But Victoria Leonardo's manager needs to be in prison for her matchmaking in her career. Like, cut homegirls some slack. Like, could she get an easy matchup, please? Dude, I cannot believe she's getting like another top prospect here. I don't know who she pissed off or what she did to the UFC to keep getting these crazy this just terrible matchmaking for her. She is tough though. Like, I do expect it to go over. I mean, maybe Kong Wong decision could be something interesting. I'd assume that would probably be the way to play it. I don't know what's going to come out and what's going to come of it, but yeah, maybe Kong Wong decision's interesting. I feel like everybody's going to be on, ITD. Leonardo's been finished by Silva and Manon Fiorot, but let's be real, those are like, bona fide top three, in my opinion, Manon Fiorot is probably going to be the champion of the same division this year, or well, maybe not this year, but next year. I think she'll hold the belt sometime soon, and Silva's probably going to be up there too as like a legitimate title challenger or belt winner. So yeah, I don't want to overestimate this girl just yet because she has a win over Valentina Shevchenko in kickboxing and start getting all excited to play her ITD, which will probably be like even money. So yeah, I would be more interested in like a GTD or a Kong Wong decision here because I just feel like there's going to be an over evaluation for where she's at when, to be honest, her best win is Wu Yanan Wu or whatever, and they went to decision. So I get that she's really skilled and she's really good. She's a top prospect, all of that, but Leonardo is going to try to grapple a little bit, and that could really stall out some clock. So
yeah, I'm gonna not play this. I don't see an angle here, even the over being. I mean, look, if everybody starts steaming the under, this is maybe Big Steve will play the under here. He'll move the number. I don't know. I mean, I'm with you. I tend to think this would be like an attritional finish. I think, if anything, like late in the fight, like just Leonardo's taking such a beating as the fight's going on. But I'm not really interested in like a 2-3 or any of that stuff. I'm just going to move on from this one. So next up, and no, I did not change the slide. Jose Nunes coming in at a towering size advantage over Jacqueline Cavalcante. I'm Italian. That's how we say it. Cavalcante, moderate favorite, minus 185. The over is juiced. I'm going to go first on this one. Other than size and reach, what justifies Cavalcante as being a near 2-1 favorite? And this is where I look at this fight and it's like, all right, so the Nunes Chandler fight was kind of like the perfect fight for Chelsea Chandler in that Nunes is pretty low volume. When she does go, she's a pretty slow starter. She winds up a lot. Like, Nunes can hit hard, but it's low volume. It's a lot of waiting for her opponent to do things. And if your opponent's pretty tough, like, I don't know how Nunes wins. Like what was the Ramona Pascual? I mean, Pascual just kept running into the pocket head first, and Nunes is picking her off. Like, she looked great. What was the woman's fight? I have it in my memory. I know Couch Warrior had a bet on the underdog in this one.
Zara Fan or whatever.
Yeah, and she looked horrible in that, and that was a very questionable decision win. So that's the thing. Like, can Cavalcante win on just activity? Probably. Am I excited to bet her as a favorite? No, because I think maybe Nunes can have the big moment. So I'm not really rushing to bet this one either. You got any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean,
the line right?
I mean, I guess, but I personally really don't like Cavalcante's margins, to be honest. Like, she doesn't really, separate herself in, like, at least in the fair fight, she didn't separate herself. She did have a really competitive fight with Nora Cornell. She actually kind of beat the crap out of Nora Cornell a little bit in their fight. And, Cornell's been doing pretty well in the UFC. I actually don't mind her game at all. She's really physical too. And obviously the size is going to be a huge factor here. The length is going to be a big factor. And I will say, Nunes does like come in and swing, and she tries really hard, which, to be honest, with how WMA has scored, sometimes, you just get, you score by just trying to do more and, even landing stuff that doesn't even really land clean. It just lands on the guard, and it's big and it's eye catching. So, I mean, I do think the line is wide, but I don't really want to play Josiana Nunes unless she was like a huge dog, because I know she's at least going to go out and scrap. And I don't know how much grappling upside Cavalcante has, but I think if she goes to it, she could just fall on top of her, because she has shown that she can grapple a little bit in some of her tape. So, yeah, it's like a massive just who knows fight. Like, my opinion, though, like, if I don't know what the over is, but over is a decision here. They could probably look like, even though they're going to fight pretty, aggressively, I feel like both of these girls are pretty durable. And it could be like really, Cavalcante could slow the pace down, and like the overs and GTDs could look like minus 500 with relative ease, I think, if Cavalcante's doing her point striking game that she does tend to do sometimes.
Yeah, it's minus 220 fight goes. I mean, I
think that's really not, that's really value. Not bad. I mean, yeah, what's Cavalcante? Like, Cavalcante decision could look massive value,
It's even money.
Yeah, that could, I mean, to be honest, that could, I know the money line is like minus whatever, what is it now? Almost minus 200?
It's minus 185. This is accurate. I finished these up today, so this is as of this morning, but I have it up right now.
Yeah, I mean, at like, at like 70, at like 65%, I mean, if I get like a plus 100 decision on Cavalcante, I mean, that doesn't seem like it would be a bad bet to me.
It doesn't bother you that she's so much smaller than Nunes?
No, this is like the size advantage I have over like Big Steve, so doesn't really bother me that much.
There we go. All right, let's move on. Fight number 3. I don't know what we're doing here either, man. Jose Medina making his. I know DFS by the numbers. Brady is the most excited person in the community for the debut, the long-awaited debut of Jose Medina, facing Zach Reese, who is coming off an absolute destruction of Julian Marquez. That's a rare one I was on the right side of. Reese is a massive favorite here. Slight juice to the under. I'll start with you. Do you think Reese can go more than 5 minutes, and is it even relevant in this case? I mean, still don't know what his cardio looks like past 5 minutes.
I do. There's a regional fight that he went. I mean, it was an amateur fight, like 3-minute rounds, but he did get extended and he looked pretty good. So there's that. I'm not really worried about his cardio. So, I mean, my only issue with him is his striking defense. That's my biggest concern. Because he did get cracked in his Contender Series fight before pulling a nasty armbar. So that's about it for me. Like, I just don't know. I mean, Medina actually, I mean, it sounds crazy, but like, I thought Medina was going to be like really, really, really bad. Like, but he's not actually that terrible. Like, he has a little bit of boxing. He's durable. His cardio is decent. He's just like kind of a sloppy, boxer, wrestler guy. I mean, he's not very good at all, but I was expecting this dude to like not even know how to throw a punch. And obviously he's not UFC level, but like, it's not the worst fighter I've ever seen. Like, I was expecting to tape this fight and want to play, Reese at like minus 400, to be honest with you, and I wouldn't touch it. But no, I think Reese will be fine. His cardio seems fine. He seems like a really athletic, physical dude. Shout out to him for cashing that under in his last fight. He made that look easy. So I appreciate him. He's super powerful, dangerous everywhere. And yeah, I think if he cleans up some things, I think he could be actually like a pretty decent fighter at the division. I mean, middleweight is one of those weird divisions where if you have physicality, you have power, you have a decent game, and you're dangerous everywhere, you could do a little bit. I mean, at the end of the day, he got memed by Cody Brundage. Like, no offense, but that was like a full-time meme. So, like, I get that people wanted to fade him, but I actually kind of rate Zach Reis. So, I think he has a lot of advantages in this fight, and I think he can get it done pretty much any way he wants to.
There is a bet that I like on this fight when it's going to be released, and that is that the submission is a little wider than probably should be. It's plus 210, 215. The KO is even money. And that's another thing where I think people are looking at the last fight with Marquez where he just like immediately blitzed him. But Reese has shown grappling. His control's good. And I think this is the kind of fight where, I mean, Medina's kind of weirdly tough.
Wouldn't you rather just play the under 1.5 and cover Reese's historical win condition and the KO in the sub for 7.5 minutes instead of picking a side for him to body kick?
But I'm also going to play the sub. I'm going to play the under, but I'm also going to play the sub.
Okay.
I think at more than 2-1, they're giving us a good price just based on the Marquez fight, because historically this guy does like to grapple, and I think Medina's kind of weirdly durable. I don't think he's like Iron Chin, but he's pretty durable. I mean, Marquez is diminishing returns right now in his career, and he's got outside interest. And I think Medina, look, this may be just I'm happy I made it. But if Reese doesn't knock him out in the first minute, it would make sense. Just chuck him on the ground. There's not going to be any resistance. I mean, he could ground and pound, I'm sure, but I think the takedowns will be there all day for him. So at 2-1, I think it's worth this. Look, it's not a great number. Like, I may even look at sub 1 when they release it, but I can't imagine that's going to be much, like, notably better. I mean, shit, Reese is in the distance is minus 350. So, like, I mean, they're onto this one. They pretty much think, this is just an absolute steamrolling. Yeah. Do you have anything more to add on that one? I'm sorry.
No, I mean, it's just hard for me to get to like that Reese ITD line when he hasn't shown he can really finish anybody at this level unless it's under 1.5. So, yeah, that's just kind of my thought process. And I get that Medina is really durable, but, at the end of the day, it's like Reese has shown the ability that he can finish guys. Like, let's be real, nobody's one punch knocked out Marquez like that. Like, he finished. He's been knocked out before. Obviously, he got knocked out by Grobocop, but like, he did him real bad. So I have to think this dude's got some power if he lands clean. So
yeah, I mean, even Baral. Now Baral, I know, is not a one punch KO guy, but that was like, I mean, Marquez was. And Marquez was the Walking Dead at that point. I mean, he was just standing there with his hands down, and still took Baral a lot of shots to get him out of there. So.
Yeah.
All right, we're moving on to fight number 4. This one's an interesting one. I don't know that I'm going to get to action-wise, but that's what I have you here for, and that's the question's going to be about. Got Slava Claus coming in, almost minus 250, against James Lontop, who, I don't know, he looks to be, from what I've seen lately, in better shape. I don't know, maybe he's training harder, coming off getting submitted by Taco Padilla. Dogfather, here's my question, and there's more to it than this, but can you justify Slava at this price? And it's not just after what Hooper did to him on the feet. The Sadikov fight, he took a lot of damage. There were moments in there where you thought they could have stopped the fight as well. So are we seeing Borshev maybe looking a little chinny?
He's always had a suspect chin. So there's that. I mean, he's been rocked. Like in multiple fights, he got rocked by Dakota Bush with a knee and then killed with Dakota Bush. He got rocked in the Mahashate fight a little bit before finishing him. He obviously got rocked in the Sadikov fight. He didn't even get rocked by the head kick. He got rocked by like a left hand that clubbed him on the temple, and he was rocked, and then he got head kicked. He obviously, everybody's going to reference Chase Hooper landing an overhand is going to be like the biggest thing, but I mean, it's pretty obvious that he just doesn't have the best durability, but he has good recovery at least. So that's a positive. But granted, like, you can't go, it's hard to fight 15 minutes at this big of a favorite price with, suspect durability when you're a striker and your biggest upside is landing like a big flurry of punches and knocking the other guy out, when you're fighting somebody who seems like they have really solid durability like Lontop. So that's my biggest concern with Slava being such a massive favorite. Because if he's probably touching up Yontop for extended periods of time on the feet here, but cardio and hardware and age and size and possible grappling upside, they all favor Yontop. So in my opinion, if you're paying minus 225 for Slava Claus, you must think he's like 85% in a like he must think he has like immense KO upside, right? And I watched Yontop take bombs off of Malik Lewis, who I'll be honest, he's not as good as a striker as Slava Claus, but he hits really damn hard. And
So does
I don't
Peak.
even
And Peak crushed Lewis.
Well, but Peak also got clipped. Peak got hurt by Lewis really, really bad in round one and almost finished.
Yeah,
so
like Lontop definitely showed some heart in that too, and some punching power.
Well, he pretty much broke Lewis in that fight, and he showed off some grappling at least. Like he got Lewis down. He doesn't really have much jiu-jitsu, so I'm not expecting him to hold Slava Claus down. But I am expecting him to like mix it in and put a high pace up and, mix in the MMA more than Slava will. So, yeah, I think the price is pretty crazy. I would line Slava like a slight favorite because he does have like an elite skill set when it comes to striking. But if you're a striker and your chin is suspect, then you can't really get in the war. And you're fighting somebody who in theory would have better hardware than you. So not really sure why the line is what it is. I have a play on, Yontop, as you can hear me talking about it. It's the only bet I have on the card. It's just for a unit at 210. And I think I line Slava slight favorite, maybe 55, 60%. Massive overcorrection. Yontop was minus 500 in his UFC debut against a guy in Taco Padilla, who's actually a pretty respectable, regional fighter. And he didn't look that bad until he, slipped into a back take and, and got rear naked choked. That's not something Borshev's going to do. So
yeah, I don't think he's not worried about that here.
No, I'm rather confused. I'm rather confused about the price personally. I don't know. I don't want to go too big because obviously Slava could knock him out and it could look like a bad bet. But, at the line, it's hard for me to understand how anybody's really excited to pay 70% here. For Slava, it's a very confusing line. And yeah, so I bet Yontop. So simple as that. There was some going, and especially after his last fight, I'm just confused. It's not like he looked good at any point in that last fight. I don't know. This line is just confusing to me. I'll just leave it at that.
There's another angle I want to add to this. There's an angle and a half, we'll say. This is 3 months after. That wasn't like flash KO and whatever. He took a lot of punishment in that fight. That's only 3 months ago. Now, he didn't get knocked unconscious. I understand that. But that was still a tremendous amount of damage. And I think you're starting to see a game plan to beat Borshev. And you're talking about Lontop maybe doesn't have the greatest jiu-jitsu. But if your wrestling is adequate, you can have a lot of top time on Borshev. Diakesi is just terrible. And
you don't even need to know how to wrestle to get this guy down to the ground. You can just kick him over and he falls down. So
when I looked at some of the numbers and they got released today, there's one that caught my eye. And it's Lontop submission at plus 2,000.
I knew you were going to say that.
But look, it's a system play with a guy that has grappling upside. It depends on how much of this fight's going to be in the grappling realm. Is it worth it? Like for 20 to 1? Is it worth $5, $10? Not financial advice. But
it's one of those weird things where this was something that I messed up recently. I had a decent sized bet on Modestas Bukauskas, and I bet it because there was potential grappling upside because Prakny is such a terrible grappler. But then I didn't bet the submission prop at like plus 1,300, 1,400. So, yeah, I mean, you make a good point, obviously. But to me, if you think that he has some upside in this fight, personally, I think the money line's fine.
You're supposed to just encourage it. Don't you know your role? Don't you know, like, the point of this whole show is it's not really to break down fights, it's to encourage my stupidity. Come on.
To just play really wide props, so when they hit, we can just say that our reads were spot on.
What you're supposed to say is, if you're going to bet that, why not bet the round 3 submission at 55-1? I'd be like, oh my God, absolutely.
Oh my God. Yeah, I mean, bet the round 3 submission at 55-1 because he does have a cardio edge, it seems.
Okay, see, there you go, dude. Was that so hard?
Maybe he could break him and submit him and take his back. Who knows?
Flying triangle, 3rd round. He's gonna catch a right cross and just land a flying triangle.
The
He's gonna palm his fist and then wrap him into a flying triangle.
The Peruvian jiu-jitsu, just as they drew it up.
All right, fight number 5. Dennis Bazooka. He's back after, look, a decent win on the AC card. He's going up against Danny Silva. Silva minus 240, over is juiced, primarily because Bazooka's shown some toughness. I guess my question for you is going to tell you how I feel about this fight. Are we getting a bargain here at minus 240 with Danny Silva?
No.
Why is that?
Because he was plus 175, plus 180 to Culibao in his last fight. You got a bargain on him his last fight. Now you're not getting a bargain. As simple as that. There you go. Like, my answer is done, and that was real smart.
What percentage do you cap him at here?
Probably like 65. Yeah, I mean, and it's because of his style. Like, he goes in there and he goes to scrap. Like, he wants to go to war. And yeah, he won 30-27 in his Dana White Contender Series fight, but like, he was minus 1. I bet him in his Dana White Contender Series fight at minus 175, right? Now he's minus 240. He's actually 210 on Bet Online. He got bought down a little bit, but who did he fight in the Contender Series? The
Pacheco.
What's his name?
Angel Pacheco, who Kalen Loughran also 30-27.
Yeah, so I mean, he was at a worse line to Angel Pacheco in the Dana White Contender Series, like, and now all of a sudden this guy is 2-1 to somebody who's, in my opinion, like a level above Pacheco. Like, I don't think they're like incredible fighters, but I do think Bazooka's not that level. I think he's a little bit level above. He's shown that, especially with his level of competition. He's fighting Woodson, Emmers, Melsick, all guys that would be really competitive with Danny Silva. So he's also really young, good gym. Silva obviously too. He's at I think he's at like Bloodline MMA. They have a couple good guys. There's like Argueda's gym. A couple other good regional guys too. I think Jalen Turner's out of the gym too. I think they train together a lot. So I mean, I rate Silva. I like his boxing. I like his switch stances and combinations. But his style is he kind of just marches you down and beats you up and boxes you on the inside. And to be honest, that's not really conducive to like this type of price tag. Is getting in a war. So I would say that this is not a bargain. You got a bargain on the Dana White Contender Series at minus 175. And you got a bargain in his last fights against Culibao. And now the market's corrected to about, in my opinion, an accurate line on how good this guy is. So, yeah, I would have to – that would be my response.
Josh Culibao bettors pour one out for his horrendous fight IQ on Saturday.
Thank you, Ricardo Ramos. Appreciate you.
I knew he lost as soon as they – I mean, right before they like the fight's over, it's like, well, Ramos won 1-3. Like, and the one thing they didn't even talk about is Culibao was bleeding in the 3rd round. Like, he got cut open. I'm like, okay, that's the moment.
He got cut open with a knee. Like, that's all it took for Ramos.
Like, Ramos had damage, and Ramos controlled the end of the round, and Culibao couldn't get out. I mean, I don't think it was like the only thing controversial was Coolabal's fight IQ. There's nothing controversial about the judging. Like, I'm actually surprised anybody gave Coolabal round 3, but
in my opinion, I thought round 3 was clear Ramos. I bet Ramos. Everybody who knows me, when it comes to, judging, I'm pretty reasonable for the most part. Like, so, I mean, I bet Ramos, and like, I thought round 3 was like 55-45 Ramos. Like, I slightly lean Ramos. And then round 2, in my opinion, the only argument is a 10-8 round 2 for Coolabal, but Ramos was
after the knockdown, he didn't really do anything.
Yeah, exactly. Like, he just, he hit him with the calf kick. He flopped over. He threw a couple of punches when he was on the ground. But by the end of the round, Ramos was back up on his feet and fighting again.
I mean, I had a Coolabal bet, and I knew he lost. I mean, it's that simple. Wasn't anybody on Twitter that was complaining, oh, man, we got like, no, we got robbed of a guy that we thought wasn't this stupid. Like, that's what it is. So, look, you write it down in the notes. Idiot. Can't trust him. Like, can escape submissions. Like, you just write it in the notes. You just keep it updated, man. Like,
well, how dumb is Ricardo Ramos for not grappling? Every single time they touched each other, he was on his back.
Well, he grappled when he could, and then the third round, I don't know if it was twice or 3 times, but he kept going for his finisher, kept going for the spinning back elbow, couldn't hit it. He tried it at least twice in the third round. Like, I almost think that's like he's just like, it's like the diamond cutter, like the RKO. Like, he had to hit it. Like, he had to go
instead of shooting a double leg when he has a guy corralled against the fence, he does a spinning elbow.
I mean, here's the thing. We'll move on after this because I don't, shouldn't be like this. This card's so exciting. We're talking about last week, but like, I want to root for Ramos. Like, I like watching him fight. I like his skills. I'm hoping maybe this is the fight that maybe this just gets him mentally back on track. He's like, all right, it was a war. I persevered through like a bad leg injury. I'm hoping he's just a great guy to watch if he's not flaking out.
Well, I mean, everybody faded him because he didn't have a lot of people's, analysis was that his jiu-jitsu was overrated and that he didn't have a lot of heart. And he, obviously people were wrong. His jiu-jitsu is good. And he does have a lot more heart than people think. So, I understand if you made a Coolabal bet, you're pissed off, but you're also, off the mark in certain aspects of that one.
Yeah. I was happy with my bet until, the end of the second round when I realized he was an idiot and that he had to win the third. But we will move on. Fight number 6. I'm going to assume, I guess, like, I have it up right now. I'm going to assume this is the first fight on the main card. It is. Edmund Shabazian taking on Gerald Meerschaert, GM3. Every time I see a Meerschaert, I have to say that I know somebody that looks exactly like him. And this guy that I know is like the fucking worst. So it makes me never want to root for GM3 because they look so much alike. Shabazian has been bet up to a huge favorite here. Even money on the under. I will start with you. This is the most simplistic capping question I'm ever going to ask. Is this just every other fight GM3 has been in at this point? He's dead on the feet. He's live in the graph. I mean, is this just every fight? Yeah. Feels like it.
Yeah, probably. I mean, it has to be, you know what I mean? It's like the same archetype of, a lot of his previous opponents too. They're younger than him, more athletic than him, probably better at fighting than him, but he just has this weird way of, digging himself back into fights. He has good cardio. He's not the worst striker in the world, but he's just so slow and hittable. His grappling's, he's a pretty good grappler though, man. GM3 knows how to grapple, so he can just kind of find a way to like slither his way back into fights, and he could certainly do that here. Obviously, he's kind of like the underdog you always want to play, but you're worried he's going to get killed in round 1, so he's always kind of a live bet for me. But yeah, I mean, but that's the only way I can really think about this fight. I mean, maybe the over could be interesting, but Edmund comes out hot sometimes, and then sometimes he doesn't. Like, he's just still so young and, developing. And I do think he's got a lot of skills. I think he's good. I genuinely do. It's just to me, it's like a really hard fight to cap personally. Because GM3 just does GM3 things. Like I just, it's a weird one. Like this could just look like the Chimaev fight all over again. Like, freaking or the Piper fight where, Edmund just runs through him in round one. So
yeah, I mean, and GM3 round 3 sub props are legendary. They always will be. I think Shabazian rolls through him here. The one thing with Mearshart, especially let's go last 8 to 10 fights. And I hate this man because I do like this kind of fighter. Like GM3 is my style of guy I root for. He can he's a typical guy though who can grapple, but he really can't get takedowns. Like he is not a guy who has good entries. Shabazian, I would be shocked if he wanted to enter the grappling realm. I mean, look, he had to deal with it against Dobson. Well, I don't think AJ Dobson's some elite talent, but he's super physical. He's got wrestling, and Shabazian was in trouble in there and showed some heart. I also don't think Dobson's some elite finisher. I think if Mearshart gets him in that position, the fight's over. I think Mearshart never lets him up and wraps him in something. Shabazian's never seen. I mean, even Fluffy is, yeah, he can sub you. But Fluffy is more like the just like super aggro guy on the ground, throws a lot more ground and pound. Whereas Mearshart, it's almost like on the way to the ground, he's setting up whatever submission he's thinking of. So, and he's more diverse in his subs than anybody Shabazian's seen. So I think Shabazian just refuses to get into that kind of range, probably blasts him in the first 7.5 minutes of this fight. I'm leaning Shabazian KO. But yeah, I mean, it's Shabazian. Mearshart's not hard to cap. Shabazian, it's so variable. Like, I've been playing unders with him for a while, but I mean, you feel the under here is absolutely related to the Shabazian side. So I'm with you, like maybe a live bet, but I am leaning the Shabazian early KO here. I can't say I love it, but that's where my lean is at the moment. We're up to fight number 7. Michael Morales, 16-0 against the vet legend, Neil Magny, still fighting since his debut in 1973. Tell me what percentage of Magny vet lesson is capped in the year of our Lord 2024.
Against Morales?
Well, that's who he's facing.
Pretty slim.
5%?
I mean,
10%?
Yeah, maybe to be honest, I haven't really looked into this fight because I have a feeling I won't have any interest to bet it until probably like the end of the week. It's probably Morales ITD squarely or Morales submission squarely. But that'll be about probably all I want to look at in this fight, to be honest. I mean, everybody's probably going to talk about Morales' wrestling and grappling. He actually does have really solid wrestling and jiu-jitsu. He's got a bunch of accolades. I think on the Ecuadorian scene for his wrestling, but you can tell he can wrestle. Wrestled Veretennikov rather easily, and he's wrestled a bunch. Just hasn't really done it as much in the UFC. He's done a lot more striking, and his striking looks improved a ton. He's so young, so physical. Probably some of the best hardware in the division. Especially in this weight class. So I really rate Morales. I just don't know where Magny has him covered outside of a front choke, probably. Maybe like a weird front choke sequence, or maybe he drags him into the cage push Magnyverse. But outside of that, I'm not really sure what advantages he has here. So yeah, it's I guess maybe 20% max for Magny, but yeah, I don't really have any interest in the fight. I mean, the under kind of seems like it could be kind of nice, but the issue with Magny is he just will cage push, and he just finds a way to make guys fight like suboptimally. So I just don't know, what to think of this fight. But I do rate Morales, so I'm never gonna fade him. Like I mean, I get the price is kind of crazy, but there are certain fighters I really like, and I'm not going to fade them anytime soon. Like I'm not going to fade certain guys, and I'm going to get certain guys, and they're deserving of it. And Morales is deserving of all the glaze. So let's go.
I want to go back to something from a couple of fights, the last couple of fights with Magny that I think has still been overlooked. Phil Rowe was landing every leg kick he threw against him. He lost, but every leg kick he threw got through. Ian Gary could have probably finished him with leg kicks. I mean, he hurt him immediately. Magny could not check a kick, could not block anything Gary did. Now, Morales' striking is not at Gary's level. I'm not saying it is. But Morales is certainly faster, I think. He's more of an athlete. I don't want to say he's definitely faster. Gary's deceptively quick, but Morales is a better athlete. Mike Malott was not throwing leg kicks, and he was still battering Magny. But Magny, even early in that fight, go watch the first round of that fight with Malott. He's like keeping it. He's almost like reaching down. Like it's almost like he's doing like that phantom check. Like it's starting to pile up. So I think the leg kicks will be there for every opponent that Magny has going forward. And I think Morales throws hard enough kicks where a leg kick TKO isn't out of the question here. I'm not calling my shot with like the leg kick TKO, but I think Morales, instead of grappling and getting into that Magny verse that you talked about, he should just, if he stays on the feet, I feel like Morales, just everything he does is going to land, especially the leg kicks. And he could really hurt Magny and get him out of there. I have no interest in betting the money line at this point. I mean, this is absurd. I'm with you. I don't know. I cat Magny, maybe a little. I mean, I don't know. If Morales comes in and, if he gets involved in one of these like greasy, grimy, just clinch affairs, Magny might do just enough, throw like all those little like short elbows against the cage, but it's probably I think Morales can KO him. I think he can hurt him bad in the legs, and like I think he can get the same exact thing that Ian Gary did to him. It's gonna be there. I don't know what you think of that, but
yeah, I mean, it makes sense. It makes sense. I just don't think Morales is that high volume to really accumulate enough damage on his leg to like make him quit. Essentially, he's just gonna go and pull guard.
Yeah.
It'll be one of those things where you're like, it's like super tilting, where you're like, aha, I knew it, and then Magny will just lay on his back every single time he gets calf kicked.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to get involved. Like, I mean, I don't think I'm going to get involved with this fight. And, I mean, I don't even, what's his in the distance? It's probably going to be just annoying enough. Yeah, dude, it's literally the perfect annoying number. It's plus 135 for his in the distance. So it's just enough where I'm like,
the under was like plus 160. So I bet you the fight doesn't go is like the same thing. So
yeah,
just play the under, play the fight doesn't go.
Yeah, I'm just going to put this question up. Ryan Loder against Robert Valentine. I hadn't taped this yet. I have nothing to say about this fight. Do you? This is you, or this is called, like the pod Dog or Pass? This is Dogfather or Pass for this breakdown.
I mean, yeah, I know both these guys, to be honest with you. I'm locked in. As always. As you can see, I'm locked the fuck in. But yeah, Loder's like a grappler. He's fought on like A1 Combat. He's like he's a wrestler, straight up wrestler, jiu-jitsu guy, and he's solid. Like he's a big guy, good cardio, grinder. It's a very binary matchup. Valentine, if you'll notice his record, he lost to Ibo Aslan on the regional scene. They kind of had like a war of a fight. It was pretty impressive. He's a Muay Thai kickboxer, so very binary fight here. Should be violent. Valentine just loves to bang, just throws absolute hammers and just swings for the fences whenever he fights. He's, a fun guy to watch, and Loder obviously has like a lot of advantages in the grappling path, and especially as an underdog, I think a lot of people want to side with him. in this matchup. So it should be an exciting fight. It's going to be a binary fight. I think both of these guys, I would consider both of these guys for the weight class UFC level. And they're both of their styles are pretty good. I mean, Loiter's kind of like a grinder style type of guy, but he does damage on the ground. He's not like one of these land prey guys. He'll try to wrestle and smash you. And Valentine's like a violent Muay Thai kickboxer. So I like both these guys. It's actually, this is a really good fight, to be honest. I'm excited for it.
All right. Like I said, I have nothing to add to that. So we're just going to move right along. To the co-main event, Angie Hill taking on Tabitha Ricci. This one I do have an opinion on. Angie Hill, very small favorite right now. The over minus 500. I'll just start on this one because this is like the one I guess I feel the best about. Does Hill look like a mass? And I talked to Pepe earlier in the day. So does Hill look like a massive favorite here if this is just 15 minutes on the feet? I just don't like Ricci if she's one-dimensional. I don't think she can sustain a 15-minute pace on the feet looking good against somebody who has the boxing that Angie Hill does. I know Angie Hill's been working on her takedown defense. It's getting better. Her get-up game's decent. The only thing you worry about with Angie Hill is like if she gets flattened out on her back, then I think that Ricci can probably absorb the round. But I just don't see it here. And I can't believe I'm so confident in the Angie Hill side on this one. But I really think just picks her apart. It's one-way traffic for me on the feet. It's not even competitive. The boxing should not be close here. And I think this money line is predicated on Ricci having top time. 15-minute striking fight. I have Angie Hill as a big favorite here. So I will be playing the Angie Hill side. I haven't played it yet. At this point, I'm just going to see where the line goes. I mean, if money starts coming on a Hill, I'll act. But, I mean, even Hill at minus 130, 140, I'm fine with. So I know that I'm not trying to spoil it for Pepe fans. Pepe said his lean, not his bet, but he's leaning toward the Ricci side. He hasn't fully taped it yet. So I don't want to give away, I'm not trying to break confidentiality. But you have any thoughts on this fight? The closest line fight on the card.
Yeah, I had a big bet on Hill in her last fight. However, I think that was a much easier matchup than this one. I tend to lean that the line is accurate because Ricci has elite weasel abilities because she doesn't stay in range to be boxed at a lot of the times. She stays way far out of range and just kind of swings random BS and random kicks and stuff and, kind of goes into the pocket and then circles along the outside of the cage. Throws some random BS, circles to the outside of the cage, and then cage pushes you. She's young. She's pretty physical. She looks like she's improving a little bit too. Because of her miraculous weasel abilities and her ability to just kind of keep fights incredibly close and Hill's ability to lose fights that are incredibly close, I tend to feel like the line is accurate here. Well, and I think the split decision prop should be even money.
For anybody that likes the Ricci side, I have very, very good news for you. Number one, my record on women's MMA fights recently has been atrocious. And my atrocious record on women's MMA fights is only topped by my atrocious record on co-main events this year. So this is like the double whammy of Lou mushing a play. So if you like the Hillside, you are fucked, I would say. So
I won't. I'm
gonna stick with the Hill play, but I'm advising Ricci at this point.
I won't say if I have a good record on WMMA or not, but I might.
I mean, I had Jillian Robertson by submission, and she did everything but submit Watterson in that fight. That's a very I had her parlayed as well, but I had the sub prop and.
That was my one big regret last card was not playing her, but I did play Chasson 2-3, so that was nice.
There you go.
When on that card.
All right, well, we will get to the main event here, and hey, if you're watching, like and subscribe. That's what they tell me to say here at the Way Past That channel. Soccer, football, which I guess is football is also soccer. Fights, fun stuff. A lot of people with no hair. one guy with not that much hair. It's fun. We're all happy here. Please like and subscribe. Jared Cannonier against Caio Borralho. I would love to say this is like a super interesting main event. I have some intrigue to see how Borralho does now that he's getting his big shot here. Borralho is a 2-1 favorite. Once again, a 3.5 over. I mean, I feel like every time we've seen a 3.5, it's gone over. Well, no, the Tybura fight was 3.5. So no. So not every fight that was 3.5 has gone over. And if you had 3.5 in the last fight, did it end like right at the 3.5 minute mark, like the 2.5 minute mark of the fourth? Had to be close.
I have no idea. Yeah. I had no bet on the fights. I wasn't really clocking much of anything.
I'm curious now.
I should have live bet Drickus because I thought the fight looked like a pick'em, and I didn't realize what the live lines were, to be honest.
3:30. All right, so it missed by the under 3.5 would have missed by a minute if you did play that. I'm sure some people play the all round thing here anyway. So, here's my question for you, and then this will take us home. Nice, tidy hour-long show to head us into the bye week. Is the line disrespectful to Cannonier? And I'm not talking about age necessarily, but I'm talking about the typical guys that have beaten Cannonier are not guys that really lack stand-up ability at all. Like, so part of this question is the line disrespectful? And then secondly, do you rate Borralho's striking at all?
Yeah, I do. I think it's pretty decent. Like it's the bouncy in and out karate style. He's very quick, accurate, he's very athletic. Yeah, I do rate his striking a little bit. I think it's pretty good, to be honest. Pretty crisp. Different style too for MMA, more of like the karate style. You know, he's very bladed and bounces in and out, throws a lot of, twos down the pipe. Yeah, I don't like it. I don't dislike it at all. In regards to this line being disrespectful to Cannonier, I do think it is disrespectful to Cannonier personally. I think it has to do, with his age, obviously. Big concern. And we've never seen him slow down in a fight until that Imavov fight where it looked like he was kind of wearing down a little bit and cage pushing for no reason as the fight wore on there. So I guess in bettors' minds that there could be some possible regression in Cannonier, and they're trying to capitalize on that with a prospect like Caio from a hot gym, blah, blah, blah. All that and then some. So it just seems like that's kind of what influencing this line. I do think it's disrespectful to Jared, and also because Caio hasn't been 5 rounds and we haven't seen his cardio tested, and he looks kind of slowed down in a lot of the third rounds, in my opinion, from what I've seen. So I do think the line is disrespectful outside of, possible Cannonier regression that the market might be attempting to bake in. Obviously, that's a pretty valid point based on his age. But outside of that, I felt like the Imavov fight was really competitive. So surprised that people are ready so quickly to fade him again. So
I think the one thing that's difficult for me to cap here is, and I'm not going back 6-7 years ago, but the most recent thing that I would find applicable, while Borralho is not the same style as Derek Brunson had very early success in that fight, getting a takedown and mauling Cannonier. Cannonier hasn't really faced a lot of grapplers, especially in the last 5-6 years. He's facing mostly strikers, the Whitakers, the Adesanyas, like the Tory, who for whatever reason decided I don't really want to grapple in this fight. Vittori just wanted to see if he could break the record for how many times he could get hit in a 5-round fight and not die. And he probably accomplished it because he got hit. Everything he got hit with was he got hit so hard it hurt me. Like it hurt every Italian around the world. Like the stud off this man's brick head. Here's the thing. If Borralho does get a takedown in the first and dominates, and when I say dominates, I mean dominate control. I don't expect Borralho to land 3 minutes of ground and pound or land these massive shots like Brunson was. The difference is Borralho is not going to be tired after 1 round. He's not going to gas doing this for 1 round. Can he do it for 5 rounds? I don't see why not. We don't know. I mean, he has looked tired in the third round before, but how much is he going to want to box? I mean, if these guys are the nerds they say they are, the answer should be not at all. He should have a very clear, decisive advantage if he wants to get this fight to the ground. He also, I do not think definitely doesn't a power advantage. Like Cannonier still hits like an absolute truck, but his volume is starting to wane a bit. The Vettori fight was the outlier, but his volume is starting to wane. He's a little more patient, waits for his shots a little more. I feel like there's a lot Borralho can exploit, but I really am not excited because I think that Borralho really, he's going to win by decision. And Cannonier, man, his cardio has held up. His power carries late. I do think Cannonier would be live. Imavov worked the body a lot on Cannonier, and I think that's why we saw him start to fade. I haven't seen Borralho really throw a lot of body shots or kicks to the body in his career, so I don't know if that's going to be part of the plan. That would be something to consider, but I lean Borralho by relatively clean decision here, like 49-46, but not excited to get to it. You have any interest in betting this at the moment? It doesn't even look like a live bet spot. Like it's probably Kyle early, and then you'd maybe get some insane price on Cannonier, but
no,
you're just taken down to start each round. You're like, all right, there goes my plus 600 ticket.
No, I mean, either I'm losing my edge or this card's just not that great to bet on because I'm probably only going to have.
I mean, nobody dressed like you're dressed right now can say they're losing their edge. If anything, you're just gaining edges.
No, I could never lose my edge.
No, I mean, this card is, I mean, you got two people. I mean, for all intents and purposes, we'll say Morales is 700. You got a 700 and a 950 on this card. So right then and there, you're like, all right. And then you got guys like Zach Reese is 5-1. Shabazian's 3-1. Like that makes it a tough card to bet. I mean, it's like your one bet, Yantop, that might be like the best play of this card from a value perspective, unless you just really love GM3. You know, it's tough to say. It's early in the week.
Yeah,
a lot of.
I mean, I think sometimes, you know, as a bettor, it's also, you know, important to know when, you know, maybe this is just the card to not bet on and to focus on another PFL card or an LFA card, or, you know, if you do soccer or something else. This might not be the week for you to bet UFC. You know, it could be the week that we do our content and tell you, hey, you know, watch the show, but from our opinion, this card could be challenging to find betting angles on, and enjoy the card. Maybe wait for live bets because that could be a better plus EV angle here.
Yeah, and I think there's, you know, we see this over the last couple of years of the UFC. Whenever we get through like a really long stretch of cards, I know we had a break for July 4th, but when you get these stretches of cards, it always seems like the last one in the stretch, if it's not a pay-per-view, it's just like the turds that were left over from every other fight that they threw on one. Because in 2 weeks, when we come back, I don't want to say I like the undercard of the September 7th card, but they put together like an amazingly hilarious, fun main card. Like Trevor Peek and Ashmuz, that's like a funny meme fight. Matt Schnell does it like say no more. Steve Garcia, Kyle Nelson, let's fucking go. Like these are hilarious. Andrade and Natalia Silva, awesome fight. And then Gilbert Burns and Brady, like those 5 fights that's an awesome card. It's like
that's a fun. Yeah, that's like
push them back.
Yeah, if you're somebody who's regularly watching UFC and you follow it, like that's a fun main card, you know.
Yeah, that's going to be a fight night. So that's one like you can actually go out for. Take your casual friends and be like, look, the main card's going to be hilarious. Like it's going to be fun. It's going to be competitive. It's going to be violent. Like that's a great card to show your friends. Like this, like to get them into the sport. This one, unless they like one of their likes in life is minus 950 Chinese women debutantes, this is probably not the card to show them to get them into MMA.
That and two of my favorite, historically most profitable fighters and two goats of the sport are fighting that night. It's just
Who?
Steve Garcia and Steve and Kyle Nelson.
I mean,
Bill Algio's father, Kyle Nelson.
I know we're gonna get out of here on this note, but does this feel like a tricky under 1.5? Like to not like, does this feel like, is this the one where we avoid the 1.5? Or just is Garcia just doesn't know any better at this point?
Nelson kind of cracks though, doesn't he? Like a little bit.
He's also kind of durable. Like he's not like people think he's like.
Oh, you're right.
No,
he does kind of have a block. He does kind of have a blockhead.
Can you see them both trying to grapple and just pissing us off?
That would be the under to avoid. I have to look into the fight, but that could actually be because I know what'll happen if I bet.
It's not going to be a 2 point. They're never going to set this at 2.5. It's going to be like 1.5 minus 120. That's what I feel like it'll be. Yeah, but the problem is though, if I bet Garcia as a favorite, he's going to get killed. So that's what I've realized is if Steve Garcia is a favorite, I just don't bet. I just don't bet him. If he's an underdog, I automatically click. That's all that matters. I don't know if it was
all you need to know.
I don't know if it was you or the Chronic Combat guys I was talking to over the weekend. I'm like, we live in a world where Jesus Aguilar and Chepe Mariscal are going to win every fight the rest of their lives, and they will both be champions in 2026. Aguilar will avenge his great shame and dishonor loss to Tyra, which set up the run. And it's going to be hilarious when they are champions in the UFC, and I am here for it.
Dude, if Aguilar gets out of that triangle armbar series, bro, it's over for Tyra, dude. He's getting broken in that fight easily.
All right, man. Well, we are done. Nice hour show. And this show will be back in 2 weeks. Dogfather, I know you have a show you're jumping into in an hour. Tell the people what you're doing.
Oh my God, guys, give me a break, dude. Oh my, I can only do so much. I'm only one man. But yeah, I'm on excited to be on Dana White's Contender Series show with Couch Warrior, my good buddy, my good pal. He was actually the first person that invited me to be on a show ever, just because.
Friend of the channel, Couch Warrior.
And friend of the channel. We should probably have him on at some point, but he's got to talk to my agent and my lawyer, and Lou's lawyer and legal representation to get him onto the show because it costs. You know what I mean?
Our lawyer is Bob Loblaw.
You got to pay the fee. So yeah. Gonna be on that show for the remainder of the Contender Series, and if you know me, you know my betting style, and I will probably don't hate me. I'm probably just gonna say pass every fight, or dog or pass, or I don't know. I'm not feeling it. Pass, and I'm sorry, but that's just how it is. So
we have a good show for that. I have a good show I watch that does that.
Oh, you do? Don't.
Every fight's just dog or pass. I have a show. I have a weekly pod I watch like that.
You can link it to me on the DMs and let me know so I can watch it. Maybe I can learn a thing or two. But
it's a big MMA pod with this guy Steve.
He's pretty sexy. I've seen him before, I think. But yeah, you know me, Lou. I'm not gonna have too many bets. I'll have plenty to say. I always have plenty to say, but that doesn't necessarily mean I'm putting my money towards it. So.
Well, I got a few things this week. I got Brady is on vacation, so I am his understudy. I'll be doing probability with Wheezy Wednesday night.
Holy shit! I'm tuned into that.
Whenever Brady's out, I'm just like his. Like I have the mason jar. I have the hat. I can imitate Brady, and we are back. Like I know I can do all of his cadence. So he knows I'm like the perfect understudy. And then I have a prop show this week with Any Action Sportscast, but I don't know if we're going to do it. I don't know if this card can justify that. Soccer show, happy hour, and then leave me alone for a week, guys. Gone fishing. But enjoy the card. It's still a card of fights. So you never know. Could be a lot of fun. And we will see you in 2 weeks for Gilbert Burns against Sean Brady. Take care, guys.